She's so energetic.
If you see me, take one of the dogs.
Yeah.
So this story, I think they'll like this one. This story comes from Kazakhstan, and it's called One Person's Dream. There was a farmer and a sheep herder, and they lived next door to each other. They had been friends forever. They had been friends so long that neither one remembered how they'd met the other. All they knew is that every morning they would have coffee together, and then the farmer would go out and work in the fields, and the sheep herder would go out and tend the flock of sheep, and at the end of the day, they would have tea together. And so their lives went year after year until one season, a sickness came, and all of the sheep died. The sheep herder had always been a sheep herder. He knew no other kind of work. And that morning over coffee, a few days later, he said, "My friend, I don't know what to do. I believe I'm going to have to move. I'm going to have to move to the big city and find some other kind of work." The farmer looked at his best friend and said, "You can't leave. We've been friends since before I can even remember, and what will my day be like without you, without our coffee in the morning and our tea in the evening?" Well, they sat and they talked about it for a while, and then the farmer grew quiet. And he thought for a while, and finally he said, "I have an idea. What if I were to take my land and I were to divide it in two, and I would give you half of the land and you could farm it, and that way we could live as we always have." Well, the sheep herder thanked the farmer. It was such a generous offer, but he said, I can't possibly take such a huge gift from you. It's too much." And the farmer said, "But wait, what if you think about it this way? I'm getting on in years, and you farming half my land would actually be doing me a huge favor. Think about it that way." So the sheep herder thought about it for a moment, and he said, I'll do it. That's a great idea." And so the very next day, that farmer divided the land in half, and they had their coffee in the morning. Then they went out and they worked side by side until the sun had set, had their tea in the evening. And so it went for weeks and weeks until one afternoon, the sheep herder was out tending to the crops, and all of a sudden his shovel hit something in the ground. He bent down and he removed the dirt. It was a box. He opened the lid, and in that box were gold coins. He ran over to the farmer and he said, "My friend, it is your lucky day. It is your lucky day. Look what I found in your ground." And the farmer looked at the sheep herder and he said, "My friend, it is your lucky day, because look at what you have found in your ground." And for the first time in their entire lives, they had an argument. Because the sheep herder kept saying, "No, no, no, it was in your ground." And the farmer kept saying, "No, I gave it to you free and clear, it's your ground." And neither one could decide who should keep the box of gold. And so they did the only thing that you would do. They went to the wise man. They went to the wise man, they presented the problem, how this gold had been found in the ground that had been given to the sheep herder, but the sheep herder wanted the farmer to keep it. And the wise man said, "This is the perfect problem to present to the students." And so they presented the problem to the students. And one of the students very quickly stood up and said, I have an idea. "The gold was found in the ground. Therefore, we should put the gold back into the ground because it belongs to the ground." And everyone thought this was a terrible idea. Then another student stood up and he said, "I have the perfect solution. The gold was found in the ground, and the ground belongs to the Khan. Therefore, we should take the gold and give it to the Khan." And everyone thought this was a terrible idea. Then the youngest student got up. The youngest student stood up and he said, "I have an idea. The gold was found in the ground, and the earth belongs to all of us. What if we take this gold and we use it to buy seeds? We'll buy seeds and we'll plant vegetables for sustaining our bodies. And we'll plant flowers to delight the eyes and the nose. We'll plant fruit trees, also to sustain but to shade us as we sit in respite. And we'll dig out a pond and people can meditate and relax. What do you think?" And they said, "That is the best idea." Both the farmer and the sheep herder loved it, and the wise man thought, what a fantastic way to benefit everyone. And so they gave the box of gold to the young student, and they sent him on his way to the market. Well, it was a long way from the village to the crowded marketplace, and he walked all those miles, and he was just about at the market when he saw something that horrified him. It was a camel, and tied to that camel were birds of every size, shape, and color. They were tied by their feet, their bodies hanging down, and with every step of the camel, their heads and their bodies would slam against its side. Well, the student jumped out in front of the camel. "Wait, where are you going? What are you doing?" he shouted up to the camel driver. The camel driver looked down at him very proud. "These birds are going to the palace of the Khan. Some of them are the last of their kind. We are going to dine on their sweet meat. Their feathers are going to decorate the palace. We sent hunters far and wide to the tallest mountains and to the rivers and to the streams. Some of these birds are the final of their kind." The student said, "You wait! No, you can't do this! I'll buy them!" "You'll buy them? With what money?" The student, without even thinking, he lifted up the box of gold and presented it to the camel driver. Well, the camel driver didn't think twice. He flipped open the lid and started counting the coins. "Take them, they're yours." And so very quickly the student started untying the birds from around the camel. Some of them took off right into the sky, but others were too stunned to fly. They plummeted down to the ground. The student, very gently, he brushed off the dirt. He massaged their little bodies until one by one they all flew off into the sky, all except for one. One stayed seated in a tree nearby. And the student, he felt good. He knew he had done the right thing. His heart felt full. And then he looked at his empty hands. And he realized he had spent gold that was not his to spend. And he started to cry, "What have I done? I know it was the right thing, but this gold was not mine. They are going to be so angry back in the village. They are going to be so angry with me. I was supposed to buy seeds, and instead I freed those birds." Well, that bird that had been sitting in the tree heard what the student said, and it flew off into the sky, and within moments, the sky was filled with birds of every size, shape, and color, beautiful plumage. And one by one they flew over the student and began dropping seeds. He outstretched his hand and the birds flew off again, and within moments they were back and they dropped more seeds into his hand. And then he smiled, knowing what he must do. He turned around and walked back from the market, back to just outside of the village, and he started digging in the ground and planting the seeds. The birds worked with him. They were scratching in the ground, dropping the seeds in, and some of the larger birds, they flew off and scooped up water in their beaks. They came back and watered the seeds. There was magic in those seeds, because right away they grew. And the vegetables were sprouting, and the fruit trees grew tall, and there were apples and pears, and then there were flowers to delight the eyes, and they had dug out a small pond, and the magic continued. A stone wall just erected itself around the garden, and then there was a beautiful wrought iron gate with 7 locks. Now you know, good news travels fast. And within minutes, the people started to arrive from the north and the south, the east and the west, and they walked into the garden. Some sat among the flowers, breathing in their scent and admiring all the color. And some sat underneath the fruit trees, others were gathering fruit and eating. Others sat by the pond and meditated. And when the sun set that night, those who had homes went home, and those who didn't, they curled up underneath the trees, and the fruit, it transformed into lanterns. And by the glow of the light, one by one they fell asleep, and the wrought iron gate swung shut, and the locks clicked. And it was all because of the kindness of one to another